actually find a record of Egypt from the Exodus?
Yeah, we actually know from the archaeological record that right during this time period, Egypt actually enters into a period of decline, which is stunning because the pharaoh that Moses ran away from early in the story of Exodus is Thutmose III. He's the Napoleon of Egypt. He leads it to one of its most glorious periods ever. The pharaoh to follow, the pharaoh of the Exodus, we believe is Amenhotep II. Well, during his reign, he starts strong. You have all of these military conquests, but the moment that happens, he just goes dormant. He doesn't fight anymore. He shrinks into himself. And his last mission, which he does in year 9 out of a 35-year reign, he sends an invading party to go gather 1,092 chariots, and he gets more than 101,000 slaves. It's almost like there's this dire shortage of chariots, horses, and slaves. Gee, why would that have been?
Lying Ass Liar, Part 2. The Exodus never happened under Amenhotep II and never happened at all. They're claiming that there should be some type of Egyptian record that demonstrates that the Exodus had happened. And what this man is trying to establish through his dream state that he is living in is that Amenhotep II is demonstrating, his history demonstrates that the Exodus must have happened because he stopped conquering and he went and he needed to go get over 100,000 slaves and get 1,200 chariots. What this demonstrates is that Christians will lie in order for them to facilitate a belief in their book. Let me give you the real history. The real history, which is easy for you to go and research for yourself, is the fact that, yes, Moses grew the Egyptian empire tremendously to reach its zenith. Well, in reaching that zenith, they bordered with the Babylonians, they bordered with the Mitannians, and they bordered with the Hittites. This takes them all the way up to southern Turkey, all the way over to the Euphrates River. Amenhotep II launched a campaign against those three kingdoms. And in launching a campaign against those three kingdoms, he didn't even have to go as far as the Sea of Galilee. That's as far as he needed to go in order to maintain Egypt's supremacy. And in launching those invasions, what happens when you invade a country, especially back then, and you win? You get the spoils of war. Because in and around the Sea of Galilee, the kings of Mitanni, the Hittites, and the Babylonians made a peace treaty with Egypt, saying that, okay, Egypt, you whooped our ass. What you want? I'm gonna take some slaves. I'm gonna take some chariots. He also took a whole bunch of other precious metals and things of that nature. And they signed a peace treaty. And Amenhotep II went back home and said, I have done well. I have conquered in the name of my father in all of Egypt. Amun is proud of me. Because Amenhotep's name, also pronounced Amenophis, means Amun is satisfied. And Amun is the Egyptian deity that was eternal and made everything from the waters that were already there. Sounds familiar, don't it? But this was also happening in around the 14th century BCE. Now, one of the things that a little bit earlier than the 14th century BCE, around the 14th century BCE is during the time frame of Amenhotep II. And one of the things that you have to recognize is that during that time frame, if Egypt was established and they had conquered Canaan, they conquered the Levant, there were no Israelites during that time. The first time you hear anything about Israelites is at around 1200 BCE with the Meneptah Stele, as Pharaoh Meneptah had conquered a number of group of people who were in uprisings, and one of those groups of people were the Israelites. That's the first mentioning, 1200 BCE. Now, the Egyptian empire did not begin to decline until around 1100 BCE. What happened around 1100 BCE? There is the Bronze Age collapse. Many historians believe that the Bronze Age collapse occurred simply because of a massive drought that was occurring in the area, and societies began to crumble. And during that time frame, the Phoenicians were able to defeat the Egyptians in the Levant, and therefore the Egyptians lost their control of the Levant in and around 1100 BCE. A clear 2 plus to 300 year time difference between Amenhotep II and the actual formation of a Israelite kingdom that did not last too long, because the Syrians came right on up in there about 200 years later and started kicking their ass. So therefore, Amenhotep is not the pharaoh of the Exodus. Ramses the first, Ramses the second, Akhenaten, none of those pharaohs, Meneptah, were pharaohs of the Exodus, because it could not have happened. The only way for the Exodus to be able to occur is that the Levant could not have been under Egyptian control, which did not happen until after 1100 BCE, and that is the only time it could have formed, which is during the time frame where during that Bronze Age collapse, that the Israelites separated themselves from the Canaanites. Since the Egyptians pulled out, now these smaller tribes were scrambling to create their own history and create themselves and claim land, and they were in all kinds of warfare during that time frame. So that is when they came about. Oh, and by the way, the walls of Jericho, they were already down in 1500 BCE and never got rebuilt until about 1000 to after 1000 BCE. So the whole Jericho story is a fabrication as well. But hey, he's just a lying ass liar. And if you go to my store on Shine Universe for Mastering You, you can get your lying ass liar t-shirt or mug. Mine is on the way. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.